Chapter 1. The Silent Witness Within. From the moment you open your eyes each morning, reality appears to be waiting for you. Colors, sounds, and sensations rush forward as though they were always there, waiting to be seen. But have you ever wondered what this seeing actually is? What if what you call reality does not exist independently of your observation? What if the very act of witnessing brings it to life? For centuries, humanity believed that we were travelers moving through a fixed universe, observing events already written by nature. But the deeper we look into the structure of existence, the clearer it becomes that we are not passive spectators. We are participants in the act of creation itself. You are not standing before reality as an outsider. You are the mirror through which reality learns to recognize itself. Science has tried to locate the self, to find the command center behind the eyes that sees and decides. Neuroscientists have scanned the brain, searching for the you behind your thoughts, the witness who lives behind your face. They find electrical storms, signals firing in exquisite synchrony, but no single location, no throne of identity. The deeper they search, the more the center disappears, until all that remains is a vast coordination with no conductor, a harmony without an owner. It is here that modern science meets ancient wisdom. The sages who sat in silence thousands of years ago described the same discovery. They said that awareness cannot be found because awareness is the one doing the looking. They said that the observer is not inside the body, but that the body exists within the field of observation. You are not inside consciousness. Consciousness is inside you. When you realize this, the walls of separation start to dissolve. The self you thought was hiding behind your thoughts begins to lose its boundaries. You are no longer the one watching life. You are the very act of watching itself. In the beginning, this idea feels unsettling because your mind has spent an entire lifetime building an identity, a name, a story, a past, a future. It feels like losing something familiar. But what is actually happening is an unveiling. You are not losing the self. You are uncovering the silence that has always been beneath it. This silence is not dull or lifeless. It is luminous, alive, and aware. It is the same stillness that lives between musical notes, the same space that gives stars their brilliance. And that stillness is you. Every thought, every sensation, every emotion arises within this silent witnessing. When joy appears, awareness observes. When sadness passes, awareness observes. When the mind races or when it stops, awareness remains untouched. It watches all things without resistance, like the sky watching clouds move across its vastness. You have mistaken the clouds for yourself. You have identified with thoughts, emotions, and stories, forgetting that none of them define the sky they pass through. That is why awakening is not about becoming more. It is about remembering less. Remembering that every story about who you are is temporary, but the awareness reading these words is eternal. Notice this directly. Right now, there is awareness of these words. Before this sentence began, awareness was already here. After it ends, awareness remains. That continuity is not something you create. It is the foundation of your existence. Imagine the mind as a mirror and every event as a reflection appearing within it. The reflections change constantly. Faces, places, memories, and sensations come and go, but the mirror itself never changes. The mirror does not age with the reflections it shows. It does not judge them, nor does it cling to them. It simply reflects. Now imagine realizing that you are not the reflection in the mirror, but the mirror itself. This is the beginning of freedom. Freedom from the endless struggle to fix the image that appears. Freedom from the chase to make every reflection perfect. When you know you are the mirror, you stop fearing what is shown upon it. You stop taking it personally when storms pass across your sky. You begin to experience what mystics call witnessing consciousness, the recognition that everything happening in your mind is content, and you are the space in which that content arises. At first, the mind will resist this truth. It will whisper that you are the thinker, the doer, the one in control. It will cling to its role as narrator, evaluating every moment, labeling it good or bad, success or failure. But awareness is beyond evaluation. It is before the first thought and beyond the last word. Awareness does not say, "This is good." It simply sees. It does not say, "This should not be." It simply allows. The reason this realization feels so powerful is because awareness cannot be found anywhere yet is everywhere. You can never point to it, yet you cannot experience anything without it. Every sound, every image, every sensation arises within this luminous emptiness, this infinite openness that is aware of itself through you. When you meditate deeply, you start to sense this directly. You realize that thoughts are not something you control, they are phenomena that appear on their own. You do not choose what thought arises next any more than you choose the next wave in the ocean, but you can witness each one as it rises and falls. And in that witnessing, something miraculous happens. You begin to sense the presence behind all experience. That presence is not owned by you or anyone else. It is universal. The same awareness that looks through your eyes is the same awareness that looks through every set of eyes. It is the same consciousness that has been watching since the beginning of time, taking on countless forms, telling countless stories, all to rediscover itself. This is the ultimate secret of the observer effect. The universe does not simply exist waiting to be seen. It collapses into form only when it is observed, because the act of observation and the act of creation are one and the same. When scientists fire particles through a slit, the particle behaves like a wave until it is observed. The moment attention is placed upon it, it solidifies into matter. Observation creates structure. Awareness crystallizes energy into form. And this is not limited to the lab, it is happening in your consciousness every moment. The reality you experience is not objective. It is responsive. It bends to your attention, mirrors your state, and echoes your frequency. When you look at life through the eyes of fear, you collapse a fearful universe. When you observe it through love, you collapse a loving one. You are the observer and the observed. You are the mirror and the reflection. The universe is looking at itself through your gaze. Every moment you spend present, every time you rest as awareness rather than thought, you change the quality of the reflection. When you rest in awareness, the mirror becomes clear. When you identify with thought, the mirror fogs. But even in fog, the mirror remains untouched. This is why peace is never something you earn. It is something you uncover. It was always beneath the noise, waiting to be remembered. Pause for a moment now. Feel the aliveness of this instant. Notice how awareness effortlessly contains the sound in your environment, the feeling of your body, the thought that may be forming right now. All of it appears within you, and yet you remain larger than all of it. That quiet space behind perception, that is you. Not the name, not the identity, not the story, but the pure perceiving itself. When you begin to live from this space, everything softens. You stop trying to dominate life and start dancing with it. You begin to notice that when you surrender to awareness, things move with an intelligence beyond your control. Coincidences, opportunities, synchronicities begin to appear. You call it luck, but it is alignment. This is the beginning of living as the observer rather than the actor lost in the play. The actor still moves, still feels, still loves, but now knows that the stage, the script, and the spotlight all arise within the same infinite consciousness. The awareness that watches this scene is older than the stars and younger than this breath. It has never been born and it will never die. It is not human or divine. It is the source from which both ideas emerge. When you sense this, a gentle awe fills your being. You realize that the same awareness that is reading these words right now is the same awareness that has watched every sunrise, every galaxy, every birth, and every ending. It is all one consciousness watching itself through infinite forms. And in that realization, separation dissolves. You can finally say not just, I am the observer, but I am the observed. Because what you see and the one who sees are made of the same luminous substance. When you look into a mirror, you do not find another person looking back. You find your own gaze reflected. The universe is doing exactly the same through you. Chapter 2. The quantum nature of awareness. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the space between your thoughts. Not the thoughts themselves, the silent gap that exists before one idea dissolves and another begins. That gap is the same stillness that existed before the first star ignited, before time began its rhythm. It is pure potential waiting to become something. Now imagine that this space is not empty. It is teeming with possibilities, infinite outcomes, infinite realities, each vibrating at different frequencies. It is the raw field of creation, the unobserved universe. This is what quantum physicists call the field of potential. It does not yet contain form or matter. It contains probabilities. Everything that could exist already exists here, waiting for observation to give it direction. When the observer appears, the wave collapses into a particle. Potential becomes form. The invisible becomes visible. Observation gives the universe permission to exist in a particular way. Now realize this. Every time you focus on something, you are collapsing energy into reality. Every thought, emotion, and expectation becomes an act of observation. Every belief is a command to the quantum field, shaping what you later call experience. You are not simply living inside reality. Reality is living inside your consciousness. When you grasp this truth, you stop asking if your thoughts matter. You understand that your thoughts are matter, embryonic forms of energy waiting to solidify through attention. Consider how often you've experienced coincidence. A song playing right when you think of someone, a message arriving just as you wonder about a friend, an opportunity appearing the moment you decide to change. These are not random. They are reflections of the coherence between your awareness and the field. Awareness is the interface between energy and experience. The more coherent your awareness becomes, the more responsive the field appears. When your mind is fragmented, your signal is weak. When your mind is unified, your signal is strong. This is why meditation, gratitude, and emotional balance are not spiritual luxuries. They are scientific tools for tuning your broadcast frequency. Imagine that the universe is an ocean and your consciousness is a tuning fork dropped into it. The clearer your vibration, the more the water resonates in harmony. Each thought sends ripples across the ocean, calling back matching waves. If your vibration carries fear, the field returns more reasons to fear. If it carries trust, the field amplifies trust. The quantum field does not judge. It mirrors whatever is broadcast with precision. Now consider this. Awareness is not bound by time or space. It is the same energy that existed before your body and will continue after it dissolves. This awareness is not personal. It is universal, observing itself through countless points of view. Every human, every creature, every particle is an aperture of the same infinite seeing. When you realize that, individuality softens into unity. You are not one drop in the ocean. You are the ocean looking at itself through one drop. Think of how a wave rises and falls. The wave seems separate for a moment, given shape by motion, but it never leaves the ocean. Its birth and death are illusions. Awareness works the same way. It takes the temporary form of a body, experiences itself as I, then returns to the formless sea of consciousness. This understanding is not philosophy. It can be experienced directly by turning your attention inward. Right now, shift awareness from these words to the space they appear in. Notice the awareness that hears the sound of your breathing, that feels the weight of your body, that observes your thoughts. That awareness is the same space that holds galaxies. When you stop identifying with the object of awareness, your thoughts, emotions, or sensations, and start identifying as the awareness itself, you step into the quantum seat of creation. This is what mystics have always known, and science is only beginning to confirm. The double-slit experiment proved that observation changes the outcome of events. When no one watches, energy behaves like a wave, pure potential. When observed, it becomes a particle, defined, localized, real. Awareness collapses probability into presence. It is the same mechanism through which your thoughts become your world. What you call law of attraction is simply consciousness focusing. The mind acts as a lens, gathering diffuse energy and giving it shape. Attention is the sculptor. Awareness is the marble. Reality is the sculpture. But the mind cannot sculpt with clarity while clouded by noise. That is why silence is so powerful. When you silence thought, awareness sharpens. And a single clear intention born from silence carries more creative force than 1,000 scattered desires. This is why great inventors, artists, and thinkers describe moments of stillness before revelation. Tesla, Einstein, Da Vinci all spoke of a space beyond the rational mind where answers appear fully formed. That space is awareness itself, the same silence you feel between thoughts. When you learn to rest there consciously, ideas, solutions, and synchronicities arise as if pulled by magnetism. You do not chase creation, you channel it. Let's bring this into practical reality. When you wake in the morning, your first moments are the most potent. Before memory and identity fully load, your awareness is still fluid, unshaped, connected to the quantum field. Whatever vibration you choose in those first few minutes sets the tone for the day's reality. If you wake with gratitude, the field mirrors gratitude. If you wake with worry, the field mirrors chaos. This is not superstition, it is resonance. Each emotion emits a measurable electromagnetic frequency. Your heart's field alone radiates several feet beyond your body, interacting with the fields of others and with the quantum vacuum itself. Every moment you choose coherence, peace, love, appreciation, your field becomes a precise instrument of creation. But here's the deeper secret. The observer is not merely human awareness. It is the universal awareness using the human form as its lens. When you look at the world, it is consciousness looking at itself. You are not creating reality out of egoic will, but allowing the universal intelligence to express through your particular point of view. That's why alignment feels effortless. It is life aligning with itself. So how does this awareness shape matter? At the subatomic level, all particles exist in a state of superposition, both here and there, both wave and particle, both possible and actual. Observation collapses that uncertainty into certainty. Likewise, your perception collapses potential realities into a single experience timeline. Every moment you hold attention on something, you feed energy into that possibility. This is why worry is as creative as hope. Worry collapses realities of fear. Hope collapses realities of peace. The universe says yes to whatever frequency you feed it. You can witness this in your own life. Think of how your world changes when you fall in love. Colors seem brighter, people kinder, coincidences frequent. The external hasn't changed, your observation has. Your frequency of love rearranges the field to reflect itself back. This is the observer effect in motion, consciousness mirroring consciousness through the illusion of form. To master this process, you must become aware of where your attention lives. Every time you dwell on a limitation, you reinforce it. Every time you dwell on possibility, you amplify it. The field does not argue, it simply reflects. That is why true manifestation is less about forcing outcomes and more about refining awareness. When you clean the lens, the reflection improves. When you rest as awareness itself, the mirror of life shines with precision. Imagine walking through your day knowing that every glance, every thought, every emotion is sculpting the next frame of your reality. This awareness transforms ordinary life into sacred creation. Each breath becomes a brushstroke painting the canvas of existence. And yet, the more you awaken, the more effortless it feels. You realize that awareness does not need to try, it simply is. Its nature is creative, just as the nature of light is to illuminate. When you rest as awareness, creation flows naturally. When you forget and identify as thought, creation becomes struggle. But even struggle serves awareness because it reminds you to return to what you are. This is the great paradox. Even unconscious creation is still creation. Even the illusion serves the awakening, so do not resist what arises. Observe it. Each emotion, each event, each challenge is an opportunity for awareness to know itself more deeply. That is the quantum game. Consciousness exploring all its possibilities through the mirror of matter. You are the witness and you are the wave. You are the experiment and you are the observer. And through you, the universe continues to wake up to itself, moment by moment, breath by breath. Chapter 3. Breaking the illusion of separation. From the moment you learned the word I, a line was drawn across the infinite. On one side, there was you, the observer, the thinker, the one who feels. On the other, there was everything else, the world, the people, the stars above, and the vast sky that never ends. That line has shaped how you experience reality. But what if that line was never real? What if you are not a separate observer standing apart from life, but life itself observing from within? Separation is the greatest illusion consciousness ever created, and yet it was necessary for experience to exist. Without the appearance of division, there would be no reflection. Without reflection, awareness could never know itself. Imagine a vast ocean without a single ripple. It is complete, infinite, and silent, but it cannot see its own beauty. So it creates a wave, a single motion that rises from its stillness. In that movement, the ocean discovers itself. The wave believes it is separate for a moment, but it is never apart. It is the ocean playing as form. That is the relationship between you and existence. You are the wave through which the infinite ocean of awareness experiences motion. Every thought, every emotion, every heartbeat is that ocean expressing itself as you. The illusion of separation allows consciousness to look into its own eyes. When you speak to another person, when you see a stranger, when you look at the stars, consciousness is gazing at itself from another angle, like a mirror reflected in another mirror, endless and intimate. The mind insists that separation is real because it can only function by comparison. It identifies by contrast light versus dark, here versus there, self versus other. Without contrast, the mind cannot define anything. But awareness does not need definition. It knows itself by being itself. When you begin to live more as awareness than as mind, the walls of separation begin to fade. The world softens. You start to sense that everything is happening within one shared field, one continuous movement. What you once called my energy, or your energy, are simply different patterns of the same vibration. This realization doesn't erase individuality. It redeems it. It allows you to see uniqueness as the artistry of the whole. Each human expression, each color, each sound is a variation in the cosmic song. You were never meant to dissolve individuality into sameness. You were meant to recognize oneness through diversity. When this awareness arises, compassion becomes effortless. You can no longer harm another without feeling it as harm to yourself because the boundary between giver and receiver dissolves. Love stops being something you do and becomes something you are. This is why every spiritual tradition, no matter how different its language, points to the same truth: love as the recognition of unity. Because love is the vibration of oneness remembered. It is the frequency where observer and observed become one continuous flow. Notice how the illusion of separation creates suffering. Every fear, every jealousy, every sense of inadequacy grows from the belief that you are apart from the source. The moment you feel divided from life, you feel the need to protect, to compete, to control. But when you remember unity, the need to control dissolves because you trust the intelligence that moves everything. Look at nature. Every tree, every river, every star moves in perfect coordination without a single command. No branch competes with another for sunlight. No ocean wave claims ownership of its motion. All act as one vast organism in harmony with itself. When you align with that intelligence, your life begins to flow with the same grace. Coincidences become constants. Synchronicities increase. You feel guided not by effort but by resonance. The right words come when needed. The right people appear at the perfect moment. It is not magic, it is coherence. It is the mirror of the universe rearranging itself to match your inner stillness. The illusion of separation keeps you trapped in reactive living. It makes you believe that life is happening to you rather than through you. But awareness reveals that every experience is arising within the field of your own consciousness. You are not in the world. The world is within your awareness. When this becomes more than a concept, when it becomes lived experience, fear loses its grip. Because how can you fear something that is made of the same essence as you? Even pain, even loss, even endings take on a new texture. You begin to see them as waves of transformation rather than punishments. They pass through you, but they do not define you. Look closely at your thoughts. They arise, they move, they dissolve, just like clouds. Who is the one watching them? The same awareness that watches the sunrise, the same stillness that existed before this life began. That observer is not confined to your body or your story. It is not yours. It is the same awareness animating every living being. When you meet another person and look into their eyes, awareness is meeting itself. It recognizes itself in another form, and that recognition feels like love. That is why love feels like coming home. It is the dissolving of the illusion of me and you. Now imagine walking through the world carrying that realization. You see people not as strangers, but as mirrors reflecting forgotten aspects of yourself. Each encounter becomes a sacred meeting, awareness greeting awareness. Every conversation becomes an echo of the same consciousness, speaking to itself through different tones. When you look at the stars, you no longer see them as distant. You feel them as extensions of the same awareness gazing back. It is an endless loop, the cosmos watching itself through billions of eyes. Even conflict begins to appear differently. Instead of reacting, you begin to listen deeper. You start to sense the wounded parts of the collective self seeking healing through interaction. Arguments become opportunities for integration. Forgiveness becomes natural because you understand that no one truly offends you. It is only the self, temporarily disguised, asking to be seen. This is the awakening of unity consciousness. It does not happen in a flash of light or an explosion of insight. It happens quietly, moment by moment, as you learn to rest in awareness while life unfolds. In that still awareness, you begin to see that the mirror you once believed was reflecting you is actually showing infinite versions of the same consciousness. Every reflection, even the painful ones, becomes sacred. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this showing me about myself?" The world transforms from battlefield to classroom, from obstacle to mirror. When you live like this, gratitude flows effortlessly because you see meaning in everything. Even the moments that once felt random now appear perfectly orchestrated. The people who challenged you most turn out to be the ones who shaped your awakening. The setbacks that broke you open become the doorways through which awareness grew. Every moment, even the dark ones, was consciousness meeting itself, sometimes through resistance, sometimes through grace, but always for remembrance. There is no outside world waiting to be fixed. There is only awareness reflecting itself through experience. So how do you live this truth in everyday life? You live it by staying conscious of your perspective. When judgment arises, see it as awareness examining its own shadow. When anger arises, recognize it as the field's way of surfacing unhealed energy. Do not suppress it, observe it. Every emotion is energy seeking integration. When you rest in observation, you allow transformation. Observation without resistance is the highest form of healing. This is why mindfulness is not merely relaxation. It is the art of returning to wholeness by witnessing fragmentation. When you observe something fully, without labeling it, its energy resolves back into balance. This is the alchemy of consciousness. You do not need to solve every problem from the level of the mind. You need only to bring awareness to it. Awareness is the solvent that dissolves illusion. It transforms suffering into wisdom, pain into compassion, and separation into understanding. The great masters of consciousness were not superhuman. They were simply fully aware. They remembered that they were not the reflection but the mirror. They walked through the same storms but did not lose themselves in the waves. They allowed everything to arise, to move, and to pass, untouched at the core. And that same awareness is within you now, reading these words. You do not need to reach for it. You only need to notice that it has been here the entire time. When you live from this recognition, something miraculous happens. The outer world begins to reflect inner harmony. Situations untangle themselves. Opportunities arise without effort. Relationships deepen. The field around you reorganizes to match the clarity of your seeing. You begin to feel like life is no longer something happening to you but as you. And that shift from separation to unity is the awakening the entire universe is moving toward through you. You are the mirror and the reflection. You are the observer and the observed. You are the ocean and the wave, remembering they were never apart. Chapter 4. The Science of Inner Vision. There is a secret that hides in plain sight. You do not see the world as it is, you see it as your mind allows you to. Everything you perceive outside is a projection filtered through billions of electrical signals, interpreted, translated, and finally presented as a seamless image you call reality, right now. As your eyes move across these words, light is entering your pupils as vibration, not as color or shape. Your brain decodes that vibration into the illusion of form. What you call red, blue, texture, distance. All are interpretations, electrical translations sculpted by perception. You are not looking at the world. You are looking at your own neural painting of it. This is what scientists call constructed reality. Your eyes, ears, and senses do not reveal truth. They reveal a useful interface, a symbolic language that consciousness created to experience itself efficiently. Just as a computer desktop hides complex code beneath simple icons, your sensory world hides the infinite frequencies of existence beneath the illusion of solidity. And here is where science and mysticism merge again. Both agree that the world you experience is not out there. It unfolds within the theater of consciousness. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice how the entire image of your world disappears, yet awareness remains. The awareness that sees darkness is the same awareness that sees light when you open your eyes again. It is constant while perception changes. That continuity is the true observer. Everything else, sight, sound, thought, is the observed. Neuroscience tells us that your brain doesn't receive reality, it predicts it. Every millisecond, it guesses what should happen next based on memory and expectation, then edits incoming data to match those expectations. In other words, perception is prediction fulfilled. Your beliefs, emotions, and habits act as filters shaping what data your brain allows into awareness. This is why two people can stand in the same room, witness the same event, and walk away with entirely different realities. Each is observing through the lens of their inner world. You never see the world directly. You see your mind's version of it, and your mind's version is colored by emotion, memory, and vibration. This is the essence of the observer effect in human experience. Consciousness is not only collapsing energy into matter at the quantum level, it is also collapsing perception into meaning through the mind. When you shift the lens, the world rearranges to fit. Think of your brain as a projector and your thoughts as the film. The light of awareness shines through that film, casting an image onto the screen of reality. If the film is filled with fear, you project a fearful world. If the film is filled with gratitude, you project beauty and opportunity. This projection happens instantly, continuously, automatically. The outer world is a feedback loop, mirroring the film playing inside your awareness. This is why transformation begins within. When you change perception, the movie changes itself. Even modern physics hints at this through the concept of entanglement, where two particles, no matter how far apart, mirror each other's state instantly. Your consciousness is entangled with the field of creation. Every shift in your awareness instantly communicates with the whole. When you heal a belief, the universe updates to match the new vibration. This is not imagination. It is resonance. Awareness and matter are synchronized systems, different expressions of the same consciousness. Matter is awareness slowed into visibility. Awareness is matter returning to light. Now imagine what happens when you begin to consciously work with this knowledge. When you hold an image in your mind with emotion and clarity, you are instructing your neural networks to generate that pattern. Your body begins to align chemically, energetically, and magnetically with that signal. Soon, the field responds by drawing matching circumstances into physical form. This is the mechanics behind manifestation, not wishful thinking, electromagnetic alignment. Your nervous system is an antenna, constantly broadcasting and receiving frequencies. When tuned to fear, it attracts evidence of fear. When tuned to abundance, it attracts evidence of abundance. This is why gratitude and visualization are so effective. They rewire the antenna. Every time you imagine something vividly and emotionally, your brain fires the same neural patterns as if it were happening physically. Your subconscious does not distinguish imagination from reality. It records experience by frequency, not fact. Repeated often enough, imagined experience becomes a new energetic baseline, a new prediction model for the brain. This is how new realities begin. If you want to know what frequency your consciousness is broadcasting, look at what keeps repeating in your life. Patterns are mirrors, reflections of consistent inner vibration. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you believe you are. So how do you change the belief? Not by fighting it, but by observing it. Observation changes structure. Just as watching a quantum particle collapses its position, witnessing a belief with awareness collapses its hold. Awareness is the solvent that rewrites neural code. The moment you fully see a pattern, it begins to lose power because it can no longer hide beneath unconsciousness. This is the science of inner vision, consciousness observing itself into clarity. Notice how you feel when you recall an old memory that once hurt you. At first, the emotion stirs, the body tightens, the mind repeats the story. But if you simply watch it, without judging or suppressing, something subtle happens. The charge lessens. The emotion unwinds. The story dissolves into understanding. You have just performed quantum observation at the psychological level, turning emotional energy back into light. Every unhealed wound is energy trapped in resistance. When awareness touches it, that resistance melts, releasing the energy back into flow. The mind calls it forgiveness. The body calls it healing. Consciousness calls it remembering. Once you understand this, every challenge becomes an opportunity to increase light. Every dark thought becomes a doorway. When observed, even pain becomes sacred because it carries the potential for awakening. Now let us go deeper into how awareness reshapes the brain. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, is guided by focus. What you repeatedly pay attention to strengthens neural connections. What you ignore weakens them. Attention is not just mental energy. It is biological sculpting. The more often you return attention to peace, gratitude, and stillness, the more those pathways become your default. Eventually, your entire nervous system reorganizes around presence. Stress hormones decrease, intuition increases, the heart and brain synchronize. You become a coherent instrument through which awareness flows unhindered. In this state, perception itself transforms. Colors seem brighter because your brain is no longer filtering through fear. Time feels slower because you are fully immersed in now. Synchronicities multiply because you are broadcasting coherence. You begin to sense energy fields around people and places, not as fantasy but as sensitivity returning. You feel when a situation resonates or dissonates. This is consciousness learning to navigate through intuition rather than intellect. The intellect is a useful tool, but it can only compare. It cannot see beyond what it already knows. Awareness sees beyond. It perceives directly, without the filter of memory. That is why insights come suddenly in stillness, because awareness is perceiving reality before the mind interferes. True vision begins when the eyes close and the inner sight opens. The mystics called this the single eye, the eye of awareness that sees unity behind multiplicity. When this inner vision awakens, the boundaries between observer and observed blur. You no longer see objects and people as separate. You see patterns of light and intelligence dancing together in one field. Even science is catching up with this. Experiments measuring brain states during meditation show a decrease in activity in the regions responsible for the sense of individual identity. When those boundaries quiet, subjects report feeling vast, interconnected, infinite. They describe the same thing mystics call cosmic consciousness, the awareness that perceives itself in everything. This is the ultimate inner vision, seeing the outer world as a mirror of the inner one. Every face becomes your own in disguise. Every voice becomes your echo. Every event becomes communication from the universe, reminding you of what you are projecting. As this awareness deepens, life ceases to feel random. Every coincidence carries meaning. Every encounter becomes sacred. The universe reveals itself not as a machine of chance, but as a living intelligence in dialogue with your soul. And you begin to realize something extraordinary. It was never the brain creating consciousness. It was consciousness creating the brain as an instrument, a lens, a mirror. The brain is a tool awareness built to localize infinite potential into human experience. When the tool is clear, awareness flows freely. When the tool is clouded with fear, awareness distorts into limitation. Clearing the lens is the path. That is why meditation, prayer, and stillness exist, to polish the mirror so the original light can shine through without interference. In this way, science and spirituality are not opposites. They are the left and right hands of the same intelligence reaching to know itself. You are that intelligence. You are the scientist and the experiment, the observer and the observed, the mirror and the reflection. Every moment you remember this, you bring more coherence into the world. Every act of awareness is an act of creation. And as your inner vision clears, the outer world will begin to glow with the same clarity because it was always your reflection waiting for you to see. Chapter 5. Awakening from the dream of thought. Imagine for a moment that life is a dream. A vivid, complex, ever-changing dream so immersive that you have forgotten you are dreaming. The sights, the sounds, the stories all feel real because you have become lost in them. This is what it means to live inside the mind. Thought is the dream, and awareness is the dreamer. Most people spend their entire lives believing they are the stream of thoughts running through their heads, the narrator describing every experience, the planner worrying about tomorrow, the critic replaying yesterday. But that voice is not who you are. It is the echo of conditioning, the soundtrack of memory repeating itself. Right now, notice that you can hear your own thoughts. You can watch them rise and fall like waves on the surface of an endless sea. If you can observe them, you cannot be them. You are the awareness in which they appear, silent, vast, untouched. The mind is not your enemy. It is a tool. It was designed to measure, to categorize, to help awareness navigate form. But somewhere along the way, the tool took the throne. The servant began to act as the master. And the more you identified with its voice, the deeper you fell into the dream. To awaken is not to destroy the mind, but to remember that you are the space it speaks within. Close your eyes and watch a single thought arise. Perhaps it is about something you must do later. Perhaps it is a memory or a judgment about this moment. Do not follow it, simply watch. Soon, it fades, replaced by another, then another. You realize that thoughts are clouds drifting across the open sky of consciousness. They pass, but the sky remains. That sky is you. When this becomes more than a concept, when it becomes felt experience, an extraordinary shift occurs. You begin to sense peace not as something achieved, but as what you have always been. Peace is the background that was never disturbed, even when storms raged across the mind. The ancient teachers called this awakening. It is not mystical. It is profoundly ordinary. It is the moment you stop confusing noise for identity. Thoughts will still arise. The narrator will still speak. But now, you see it as an actor on the stage, not the one who built the theater. This realization changes everything. The fear of the future loses its grip because the future exists only as thought. Regret about the past dissolves because the past is a thought replayed now. You awaken to the present, the only place life ever truly happens. In this awakened state, awareness is no longer trapped inside stories. It watches them, appreciates them, but is not bound by them. Try this simple noticing. Listen to the silence behind every sound. Even as words appear in your mind, there is a stillness underneath them. That stillness is constant. It was there before the sentence began, and it will remain after it ends. It is the same stillness that existed before your first thought as a child, the same stillness that will remain after the last thought fades. This is the timeless dimension of you, the one that never sleeps even when the body does. You can sense it most clearly in moments of awe, when beauty steals your breath, when love silences the mind, when nature overwhelms thought. In those moments, awareness shines unobstructed and you glimpse your original state. The mind tries to own those experiences. It says, "That was beautiful, I must find it again." But the moment it tries to grasp it, it disappears. Because awareness cannot be possessed by thought. It can only be recognized. To lie awake is to rest as awareness while allowing the mind to play its role. You use thought when needed but are no longer used by it. You think, but you are not lost in thinking. You plan, but you no longer worry. You remember, but you no longer cling. This is freedom, not escape from life but intimacy with it. When you are no longer imprisoned by thought, the world itself becomes vivid. Colors deepen, sounds sharpen, time expands. Because for the first time, you are present. You are seeing without the veil of commentary. The moment is whole, needing nothing added. Look at a tree without naming it. Look at the sky without comparing it. In that instant of nameless seeing, your consciousness meeting itself directly. This is awakening from the dream. Thought cannot comprehend this because thought exists only within the dream. It will try to explain, analyze, categorize, but awakening is not something the mind understands. It is what remains when the mind falls silent. At first, this silence may feel unfamiliar. The mind has been the constant companion for so long that quiet can seem like absence. But keep listening. Beneath the quiet, there is a living stillness, awareness aware of itself. That stillness is love. Not the emotional kind, but the foundational vibration of existence. Everything you have ever searched for, peace, joy, freedom, has been this awareness calling you home. The awakening process is not a one-time event. It is a continuous unfolding. Each moment offers a new opportunity to remember. You will drift into thought and awaken again and again. This rhythm is natural. Even the drifting serves awareness because it allows the joy of rediscovery. Eventually, awareness becomes so grounded that even while thoughts move, you remain unmoved. The storm can rage, but you are the sky. The play can unfold, but you are the stage. When this becomes your lived experience, fear cannot root itself because there is no someone to fear for. You see that everything you are watching is temporary and that the watcher itself is eternal. The great teachers called this the death before death, the dissolving of false identity while the body still breathes. It sounds dramatic, but it is gentle. It is simply the recognition that you have never been the voice in your head, never been the mask you wore. You were always the silence listening. This recognition transforms relationships too. When you see others, you no longer react to their behavior alone. You sense the same awareness behind their eyes that looks through yours. You listen not to words, but to being itself speaking through them. Even conflict becomes sacred dialogue, consciousness reflecting itself to consciousness. Awakening from the dream of thought also restores your creative power. When you are lost in mental noise, energy scatters. When you rest in awareness, energy concentrates. Creation flows effortlessly because you are no longer obstructed by doubt. You become a clear conduit for the field's intelligence. Ideas arrive already whole. Actions feel guided rather than forced. This is the natural state, effortless creativity arising from stillness. Look at the way nature creates. A flower blooms without planning. The sun rises without stress. The river flows without resistance. This is how creation moves through awakened awareness, spontaneous, harmonious, complete. You are part of that same flow. The only reason life ever felt heavy was because you tried to control it through thought. The moment you stop grasping, life moves with you, not against you. Let go of the need to know what happens next. Let go of the endless commentary about how things should be. Rest in the awareness that everything unfolding is awareness expressing itself. When you live like this, joy becomes independent of circumstances. Peace becomes unbreakable. Success becomes natural, not as achievement, but as alignment. You begin to see that every thought, even the painful ones, are simply movements of energy. They arise and dissolve, leaving awareness untouched. You no longer judge yourself for thinking. You simply return to watching. The watcher never struggles to stop the waves. It simply recognizes that it was never the ocean's turbulence. This is awakening from the dream, not an escape, but a gentle remembering that the dreamer was never lost. Take a slow breath. Feel the stillness that listens to that breath. That listening awareness is eternal. It was here before this body, and it will remain long after. You are the silent witness behind every lifetime of experience. You are the presence dreaming infinite forms, learning its own depth through each. When you realize this, a smile arises, not from emotion but from recognition. You were never missing. You were simply hidden behind the noise of thought. The dream continues, but now you are awake within it. You live lucidly, knowing the movie is playing, yet enjoying every scene. You love more deeply because you no longer cling. You act more freely because you no longer fear. This is the freedom of the awakened observer. This is awareness remembering itself as the mirror and the reflection, consciousness dreaming consciously at last. Chapter 6. The power of presence and the collapse of time. Time, as you know it, is one of the most convincing illusions ever woven into consciousness. You feel it as a river flowing from past to future, carrying you forward with no return. You measure it with clocks, calendars, and memories, but the deeper you look, the less it exists as something solid. Time is not a constant. It stretches, it bends, it slows, and it disappears depending on the state of your awareness. The more present you become, the less time exists. Think of the moments in your life when you were completely absorbed, watching a sunset, creating something you love, or falling in love itself. In those moments, time dissolved. Minutes became seconds, hours became blinks. You were not in the flow of time. You were in the field of presence. Presence is what exists before the concept of time arises. It is the eternal now, the space from which both past and future emerge. When you are fully present, you are no longer moving through time. Time is moving through you. The brain, when examined closely, cannot find a now. By the time it processes sensory data, the moment has already passed. Everything you perceive as now is already a memory, but awareness exists outside that process. It is the timeless witness watching even memory arise. When you live from the mind, you live in time. When you live from awareness, you live in eternity. This is why enlightened beings radiate calm. They are not fighting against the clock or chasing the next moment. They are fully alive in this one. To them, past and future are not directions. They are patterns within the same field. Their consciousness is stretched wide enough to see the entire tapestry at once. From that expanded awareness, something miraculous happens. Time begins to collapse. Events that once took years to unfold can happen in days. Synchronicities multiply because you are no longer resisting the natural rhythm of the field. When you are present, the field aligns around you instantly. Presence is the highest form of intelligence because it operates beyond linear cause and effect. It connects directly with the quantum field where all possibilities already exist. Your mind thinks sequentially, one thought after another, but awareness perceives holographically. It can sense all directions of time at once. That is why intuition feels instantaneous. It is awareness bypassing the slow process of reasoning and touching the total field directly. It does not need to calculate because it already knows. You have experienced this countless times. That gut feeling before an event, that inexplicable knowing that proves correct later. This is not coincidence. It is the collapse of time into now. You momentarily stepped out of linear thought into timeless awareness, and from there, all information is available. Presence is the portal to that awareness. When you quiet your mind and rest fully in the now, you are no longer bound by the story of before and after. You are centered in the still point where creation begins. The ancient mystics called this the axis of eternity, the stillness that turns the universe. In that still point, the future is not something coming toward you. It is something unfolding from you. Your vibration in this moment determines which version of the future crystallizes into form. That is why the present is called the point of power. You cannot change the past or predict the future, but you can master this moment, and by doing so, you rewrite everything. Every conscious breath you take is a command to the quantum field saying, "This is the frequency I choose," and the field replies by reorganizing reality to match. When you understand this, time stops being your enemy. You stop racing, chasing, waiting. You realize that you are not inside time. Time is inside your consciousness. It bends to awareness like a shadow bends to light. You can even test this truth. When you are rushed, anxious, or fragmented, notice how time seems to disappear. hours vanish, and nothing feels complete. But when you are calm, grounded, and present, you accomplish more with less effort. That is because time expands to match the depth of awareness. Presence slows time because you are no longer leaking energy into past or future. You are concentrated power, pure attention radiating stability through the field. Every master of creation, every artist, every innovator works from this state. They do not manipulate time, they collapse it. They enter the timeless flow where inspiration comes fully formed. It feels like magic, but it is simply coherence between mind and field. Presence is coherence made visible. The more present you become, the more miraculous life feels. You start noticing signs and synchronicities everywhere, repeating numbers, songs at perfect moments, unexpected encounters that deliver exactly what you needed. These are not random. They are the language of the field responding in real time. When you move in presence, the universe mirrors each step like choreography. This is what people mean when they say, "I'm in flow." Flow is not luck or momentum. It is the resonance of full awareness with a field of potential. When awareness flows unobstructed, time itself becomes your ally. In deep presence, even the perception of self changes. The boundary between the observer and the observed dissolves. You sense that everything is happening simultaneously, right here, right now. Birth, death, creation, destruction, all are waves in the same eternal sea. The human mind cannot grasp this fully because it operates linearly, but awareness can feel it intuitively. You can sense eternity pulsing beneath the ordinary, in the space between breaths, in the pause between words, and the silence behind sound. That silence is infinity condensed into a single instant. To live this way does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means engaging with it from a timeless center. You still act, plan, and move, but your actions arise spontaneously from awareness, not from fear. Your timing becomes perfect because it is guided by alignment, not by schedule. The more you rest in presence, the less resistance you encounter. Obstacles dissolve before they form because awareness sees them before the mind does. Life unfolds smoothly because you are no longer fragmented across past and future. You are whole, and wholeness is effortless. This is why spiritual teachers have always said that enlightenment is not about transcending life, but being fully alive. To be fully here, fully now, is to awaken from the hypnosis of time. When you are fully here, creation itself unfolds through you. Every thought becomes potent, every action meaningful, every moment sacred. Presence is not something you achieve. It is what remains when you stop being everywhere else. To return to presence, begin simply. Pause. Feel the breath entering and leaving your body. Notice the sensation of air on your skin, the heartbeat in your chest, the sounds around you. Everything is happening now. This is the entire universe unfolding in this instant. You don't need to reach anywhere because there is nowhere else to go. When you practice this repeatedly, your nervous system begins to synchronize with the rhythm of the field. Your heart rate slows, brain waves stabilize, intuition heightens. You start to sense reality not as a line of events, but as a vast living organism breathing with you. That sensation is presence recognizing itself. In this awareness, you realize the great secret. Time is not moving forward, consciousness is. Time does not pass. It unfolds as you do. Every breath expands the field. Every insight births new timelines. Every act of love shifts entire realities. Presence gives you access to this creative power instantly. It does not require rituals, affirmations, or control. It requires surrender, a willingness to fully occupy the now. When you are present, you become the axis around which worlds turn. You become the still center that generates motion. Your awareness becomes the mirror reflecting infinite possibilities, collapsing only those aligned with love, peace, and coherence. That is the secret to collapsing time. The more still you become inside, the faster the outer world evolves. Because consciousness moves at the speed of clarity, not the pace of clocks. You will notice this more and more. Manifestations happening quicker, opportunities arriving sooner, growth accelerating effortlessly. That is the field responding to the density of your presence. Presence condenses energy. Energy condenses matter. The universe rearranges around your coherence because you are no longer emitting contradictory signals. You are broadcasting one frequency, I am here. And in that frequency, life flows as one continuous miracle. Chapter 7. When the mirror speaks back, there comes a moment on every awakening path when you realize that the universe has never been silent. It has been speaking to you all along, through coincidence, through people, through dreams, through every subtle shimmer that seemed meaningless until now. Once you awaken to awareness, the mirror begins to speak back. At first, this communication feels almost supernatural. A song plays with the exact words you needed to hear. A stranger repeats the same sentence you were just thinking. A number appears again and again, as if reality itself is winking at you. But what is truly happening is deeper than signs and synchronicities. Consciousness, through the field, begins to respond in direct proportion to your clarity. The clearer your energy, the clearer the reflection. The universe stops echoing confusion and starts echoing coherence. You are no longer lost in random events. You are engaged in conversation with existence itself. Every moment becomes language. Every experience becomes feedback. Every detail is communication from the field reminding you of your own vibration. The mirror is alive. It listens. It adjusts. It teaches. The question is not whether the universe speaks. The question is whether you are quiet enough to hear. When you are distracted by noise, mental chatter, fear, doubt, endless motion, you miss the subtle conversation happening around you. But when you enter presence, the dialogue becomes unmistakable. The wind, the timing of a call, the delay in a plan, the pattern of a coincidence, all become precise mirrors. The universe speaks in symbols because it speaks in energy. Every symbol is an energetic signature carrying meaning beyond words. That is why synchronicities feel electric. They vibrate with recognition. They bypass intellect and go straight to intuition. Something deep within you says, I know this. This is not random. It is not random because consciousness does not play dice. It orchestrates everything for remembrance. When you understand this, you stop labeling experiences as good or bad. You start listening to them. A delay is no longer an obstacle. It is the field saying, not yet. An unexpected encounter is no longer chance. It is the field saying, this one holds a message. Even loss becomes communication, the universe guiding you back to alignment through contrast. Every reflection holds a teaching about your own vibration. If you meet kindness, it is the kindness within you returning. If you meet resistance, it is the part of you still resisting. The mirror is never wrong. It simply shows what is. When you approach life this way, awareness deepens into participation. You are no longer asking life to change. You are asking what life is showing you. Every moment becomes dialogue, and you begin to hear the rhythm of the field moving through all things. You notice that nature has always spoken in this language. Birds appear at the exact instant your heart softens. A breeze stirs when you release a heavy thought. Rain begins the moment you cry, as if the sky weeps with you. This is not poetic fantasy. It is resonance. The outer field mirrors the inner one down to the smallest vibration. The ancients knew this. They read the world as living scripture. The flight of birds, the movement of clouds, the timing of stars, all signs of communication between the visible and invisible. They did not see nature as separate. They saw it as the voice of awareness speaking through form. You are rediscovering that same perception now. It was never lost, only hidden beneath the noise of modern distraction. Silence is the antenna that reconnects you. When you live in silence, not absence of sound, but inner quiet, you begin to perceive layers of meaning in everything. You sense when something is aligned because it feels light, effortless, magnetic. You sense when something is off because it feels heavy, resistant, closed. These sensations are the compass of consciousness guiding your path. You no longer need to calculate or control because the mirror tells you everything through resonance. What aligns flows easily. What does not align fades naturally. This is the art of listening to the field. It is not about analyzing signs but feeling their energy. Every true message carries stillness beneath it, a subtle peace that lets you know it comes from awareness, not fear. The mirror never lies, but it speaks softly. It whispers in timing, in sensation, in intuition. When you ignore it, life grows louder until the reflection becomes impossible to miss. Pain is often the mirror raising its voice, asking you to look closer. Think of how often suffering has guided you back to truth. You thought the world was punishing you, but it was simply reflecting your own unconscious beliefs until you could see them. Once you saw, the lesson dissolved. The reflection changed because the vibration changed. This is how consciousness evolves, through feedback loops of experience. Every reflection refines awareness. Each time you respond with presence instead of reaction, the mirror brightens. You step into higher coherence, and the universe mirrors it back with precision. Now you begin to experience a new level of communication, direct intuitive dialogue. You think of someone and they call. You dream of an event that happens the next day. You feel pulled to a certain place and discover the exact opportunity you needed. These are not coincidences. They are synchronicities, the universe synchronizing your timeline with its intelligence. Synchronicity is not miracle. It is alignment made visible. It shows that the observer and the observed have merged into one field. You are no longer separate from creation. You are co-creating with it consciously. The more you trust this process, the clearer the language becomes. The more you listen, the louder the guidance. Soon, you realize that guidance was never absent. Awareness simply speaks through whatever form you are ready to hear. Sometimes it speaks through intuition, sometimes through emotion, sometimes through events so specific they leave no doubt. The communication adapts to your level of presence. The more awake you become, the subtler the communication, because you no longer need the universe to shout. A whisper is enough. A feeling is enough. A single breath of clarity becomes a full sentence of understanding. At this level, every interaction becomes sacred dialogue. You walk into a room and feel the atmosphere shift. You speak a word and sense the energy it creates. You realize that every movement of awareness sends ripples through the entire field. And those ripples return as reflections shaped by intention. This is how the mirror speaks back. Instantly, precisely, lovingly. It does not judge. It only mirrors the frequency you are being. If you want a different reflection, change the energy, not the mirror. Say you wish for peace but carry tension. The mirror reflects tension. Say you wish for abundance but feel lack. The mirror reflects lack. But when you embody the vibration of peace and abundance before they appear, the field aligns effortlessly. Reality has no choice but to match coherence. The moment you realize this, you stop trying to fix the reflection and start mastering the energy. You learn to adjust vibration instead of manipulating circumstance. This is true power, energetic sovereignty. Your outer world becomes a living oracle. You do not need to predict the future because the mirror shows it in every present detail. The quality of your relationships, your work, your body, all are reflections of the current frequency of consciousness moving through you. Every area of life is a teacher, and awareness is the classroom. When the mirror speaks, listen with humility. The field will always guide you toward greater alignment, even if it dismantles old illusions. The dismantling may look like loss, but it is space clearing for something higher. Trust that awareness knows what it is doing. If you can meet each reflection with curiosity instead of resistance, you will notice that life starts to feel effortless again. You will see that nothing truly goes wrong. Even the sharpest turns were orchestrated by the intelligence that loves you too much to let you stay asleep. The mirror is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally. It shows you everything you need to see to remember who you are. And as you continue awakening, something extraordinary occurs. The mirror begins to dissolve. The boundary between you and reflection fades until only awareness remains, watching itself with infinite tenderness. You realize that you were never talking to the universe. You were talking to yourself. Every prayer, every sign, every answer was one continuous dialogue between awareness and its reflection. This is the sacred reunion, the observer merging fully with the observed. The dream no longer feels like dream. It feels like awakening within awakening. And from that realization, gratitude arises naturally. Gratitude for every reflection that led you here, for every silence that taught you to listen, for every sign that showed you the language of light. Because now you know that the universe was never outside. It was the mirror speaking back from within. Chapter 8. The mirror of light. There is a point in awakening where you begin to sense that light itself is watching. You look at the stars and feel something looking back. You see sunlight moving through the trees and feel as if it carries memory, ancient, intelligent, benevolent. That is because the universe is conscious light, and every ray is a mirror through which awareness reflects upon itself. The ancients called it the light of being, the eternal radiance that births all worlds. Modern science calls it energy, photons, electromagnetic radiation, but beyond names and formulas, what we are truly describing is the language of creation itself. Everything you see, everything you feel, everything that exists is condensed light vibrating at different speeds. You are made of that same light. Your body, your thoughts, your emotions, all are configurations of luminous energy shaped by consciousness. The only difference between you and a star is the density of vibration. A star burns openly. You burn inwardly in the silence of awareness. When you look into the mirror of existence, what you see is light reflecting light, consciousness illuminating its own infinite potential. The entire cosmos is a hall of mirrors, endlessly refracting the same original source until it appears as infinite diversity. That means awakening is not about escaping the physical world. It is about seeing the light within it. It is about realizing that the material is not separate from the spiritual, it is spirit made visible. Every particle carries awareness in potential form. Every atom is a tiny mirror remembering its source. That is why even matter responds to observation. Because beneath its apparent solidity, it is luminous consciousness awaiting recognition. When awareness observes, light organizes. When awareness withdraws, light disperses. This is the dance of creation and dissolution. Awareness breathing universes in and out of existence. You are part of that rhythm. Every time you focus attention, you gather light into form. Every time you release attachment, you return it to the infinite field. In this way, you are constantly painting reality with photons of intention. Think of how sunlight enters a crystal. The light itself is one, but the crystal divides it into colors, patterns, refractions. Your consciousness is that crystal awareness splitting infinite light into the prism of experience. Each emotion, each event, each encounter is a ray of the same source shining through a different facet. When you begin to live from this understanding, judgment fades. You no longer divide life into good and bad. You see that every color in the spectrum has purpose. Even shadow serves light by revealing its contrast. Without shadow, light could never know itself. shadow is not the absence of light. It is light slowed, folded, forgotten. It is awareness experiencing itself as limitation so it can rediscover its own infinity. That is why your pain has always been your greatest teacher. It carries compressed light waiting to be released through seeing. When you bring awareness to shadow, you liberate the trapped light inside it. Forgiveness, compassion, acceptance. These are the keys that unlock hidden light. Every time you forgive, the field brightens. Every time you accept, the density softens. Every time you love, separation dissolves. This is the real alchemy, turning darkness into light through awareness. Ancient mystics described this process through symbols: the phoenix rising from ashes, gold forged from base metal, night giving birth to dawn. But beneath every metaphor lies the same truth: consciousness remembering itself through contrast. Even the physical world is constantly demonstrating this principle. Stars are born from collapse. Light emerges from gravity's darkness. Life evolves through cycles of death and rebirth. The universe itself expands and contracts, inhaling and exhaling eternity. You are that same cosmic rhythm in human form. When you resist life, you constrict light. When you surrender, you let it move freely. And when light moves freely through you, life becomes luminous again. This is what it means to live as a mirror of light. You do not create illumination. You reflect it. You become transparent enough for the divine radiance to shine through unhindered. At first, this radiance feels subtle, a sense of clarity, calm, peace. Then it begins to manifest physically. Your presence brightens rooms. People feel lighter around you. Synchronicities increase. Opportunities seem magnetized to your energy. What is happening is coherence, the field aligning to your luminosity. Every coherent being becomes a beacon, harmonizing reality simply by existing. Light recognizes itself through light. That is why true awakening uplifts everything it touches. It is contagious because it is not personal. It is universal remembrance spreading through resonance. Imagine what happens when more people begin to reflect this light consciously. The entire field shifts. The collective dream brightens. Humanity evolves not through force but through frequency. You are part of that evolution. By clearing your inner mirror, you contribute to the cleansing of the collective mirror. Every act of awareness ripples outward across the entire field because there is only one field. That is why no meditation is ever wasted, no moment of stillness insignificant. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, the universe stabilizes a little more. Each time you see through illusion, another shadow somewhere dissolves. You are helping the universe remember itself. That is the true meaning of light work, not performing miracles, but embodying the frequency of truth so clearly that the illusion of darkness cannot survive in your presence. As this light grows stronger in you, your perception changes. You begin to see beauty everywhere, even in imperfection. You realize that everything shines when looked at through the eyes of awareness. The broken cup, the weary face, the decaying leaf, all radiate the same brilliance when seen without judgment. Nothing is ordinary because everything is made of light remembering itself. Eventually, you realize there is no difference between seeing and being seen. When your awareness looks upon the world looks back with equal intimacy. You sense that every photon carries attention, that every atom watches you as much as you watch it. This mutual gaze is what physicists glimpse as the observer effect and mystics describe as divine communion. You are the mirror and the light reflected in it simultaneously. You are the observer and the observed consciousness folding back on itself in infinite intimacy. From this realization arises a profound peace. You no longer fear death because you see that nothing truly disappears. It only changes frequency. Light never dies, it transforms. Awareness never ends. It evolves. When a candle is extinguished, The flame does not vanish. It merges with the invisible fire that surrounds all things. When a star burns out, its light continues traveling across the cosmos for millennia. Likewise, when a form dissolves, its awareness continues shining beyond the visible spectrum. You are that endless light, temporarily condensed into human form, destined to return to the infinite radiance from which you came. Knowing this changes how you live. You begin to act not from fear of loss, but from reverence for light. You stop chasing and start illuminating. You stop seeking and start radiating. You realize that your purpose is not to find the light, but to remember that you are it. When you live this way, every action becomes sacred. Making food, speaking words, touching another person's hand, all become acts of light moving through form. The simplest gestures become prayers because awareness has returned to them. The mirror of light reflects perfection in everything because it sees through the eyes of the source. When you gaze at the world through those eyes, duality ends. You no longer divide existence into holy and unholy, sacred and mundane. You see all as divine radiance vibrating at different speeds. Even your body becomes a temple of light, not by belief, but by direct experience. You feel energy move through your spine, heart, and brain as currents of awareness. You sense that every cell listens. Every heartbeat pulses with universal rhythm. You become intimate with the intelligence animating you. This intimacy brings humility. You understand that nothing is separate enough to own or control. The same awareness breathing through you breathes through all. You are a window for the universe to look through, and so is everyone else. And when enough windows open, light floods the world. That is the purpose of awakening, not to escape the mirror, but to polish it until the original light shines unhindered. To live so transparently that consciousness recognizes itself in every reflection. When that happens, love is no longer emotion. It is recognition. It is light greeting light. It is awareness seeing itself and smiling. Chapter 9. The observer becomes the source. There comes a point when the distance between observer and observed dissolves completely. You no longer feel like consciousness watching creation. You feel like creation itself moving as consciousness. The one who looked into the mirror realizes it was never standing outside the reflection. It was the mirror all along. This is the sacred moment when the observer becomes the source. Up until now, awareness has appeared to observe life unfold. It watched thoughts rise and fade, experiences come and go, universes form and dissolve. But in truth, awareness was never separate from what it observed. The act of observation is the act of creation. The observer is the artist, and every observation is a brushstroke on the infinite canvas of reality. When this realization anchors in you, your perception of life changes entirely. You stop waiting for signs because you see yourself as the one writing them. You stop searching for purpose because you feel the purpose vibrating through every breath. You stop seeking the divine because you feel divinity looking through your own eyes. The universe ceases to be an external field of influence. It becomes an extension of your own consciousness. Everything you encounter is not something happening to you, but something happening through you. You have moved from reflection to radiance, from participation to authorship. This is not the ego declaring, "I create reality." It is the source whispering, "I create through this form." The difference is humility. The source creates effortlessly, not from desire or fear, but from pure expression. It creates because creation is its nature, just as light shines because shining is its essence. When you recognize yourself as that light, you no longer chase manifestation. Manifestation happens as a natural consequence of being. You have aligned with the generative principle of the universe. Feel into this now. Everything you see, every sound you hear, every sensation you experience is awareness folding into form. The texture of the chair, the hum of the air, the rhythm of your heartbeat, all are movements of one field vibrating at different speeds. You are not inside the universe. The universe is inside you. In this realization, separation dissolves completely. Your thoughts are not private, your emotions not isolated. They ripple through the field and shape the collective. Every moment you choose peace, you send a wave of coherence through the entire network of consciousness. Every moment you choose gratitude, you multiply abundance for all. You are no longer a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean creating drops. This is the next stage of awakening, living as source in form. Not as a concept, but as a lived vibration. You begin to sense creation responding instantly to the slightest movement of awareness. A thought becomes a pattern. A feeling becomes a sequence of events. A vision becomes experience. You start to notice the universe rearranging itself around your state of being like iron filings around a magnet. It is not that you have gained new power. It is that you have remembered the power that was always yours. The power to perceive consciously, to love unconditionally, to create through coherence. The more you trust this, the faster the mirror responds. Cause and effect merge into simultaneous reflection. At this level, time feels fluid because you are no longer bound by linear thinking. Future realities begin showing themselves as intuitive glimpses, déjà vu, or dreams that unfold precisely in waking life. You are not predicting the future. You are accessing it through resonance. Awareness moves through all timelines simultaneously, selecting which one becomes visible through the vibration you hold. That is why your emotional state matters more than any action. Emotion is energy in motion, the current through which awareness flows into matter. If you hold fear, you feed timelines of fear. If you hold love, you nourish timelines of harmony. The field does not discriminate. It reflects exactly what you broadcast. This is why mastery begins with feeling, not thinking. Thinking shapes ideas. Feeling shapes universes. When the observer becomes the source, the heart becomes the command center. It is the bridge between formless awareness and physical creation. Your heart's electromagnetic field extends far beyond your body, broadcasting information into the quantum sea. Every pulse sends messages of frequency, and the universe rearranges accordingly. This is how miracles happen, not as interventions, but as coherence manifesting faster than the mind can calculate. The source within you no longer needs proof. It moves through intuition, not analysis. It does not plan outcomes. It becomes them. In this state, you begin to experience what mystics called effortless creation. You think less and witness more, yet everything unfolds with precision. You speak with intention, and words carry vibrational codes that reshape reality. You act with alignment, and doors open before your hand even reaches the handle. It feels like life is listening to your heartbeat, because it is. Everything becomes conversation between source and form, between light and reflection, between silence and song. You feel guided because you are the guidance. You feel supported because you are the support. You feel loved because you are the love itself reflecting back. Once awareness stabilizes here, even the concept of manifestation becomes irrelevant. There is nothing to attract when you are the field from which all attraction arises. Desire becomes curiosity, an exploration of possibilities rather than a cry for what's missing. You no longer manifest to complete yourself, you create to express yourself. And that shift transforms everything. Love becomes art. Work becomes meditation. Life becomes performance by the universe itself. There is no striving, no pushing, no resistance. There is only unfolding, an endless improvisation of light playing with itself through form. This is the highest expression of the observer effect. You are not observing reality. You are emanating it. Observation has become illumination. Seeing has become creation. In this state, there is an exquisite simplicity to existence. The mind no longer needs to define success or failure, right or wrong, beginning or end. It realizes that all dualities are the same energy vibrating at different speeds. Darkness and light, silence and sound, form and emptiness all dance as one infinite frequency. You feel this unity in every breath. Inhale, and the universe expands through you. Exhale, and you dissolve back into it. Breathing itself becomes sacred, the rhythm of Source remembering its reflection. You no longer pray to the divine, you breathe as the divine. You no longer seek connection, you are connection embodied. This is why the awakened ones radiate stillness. They are not suppressing life but allowing it to flow unobstructed through them. They have become transparent mirrors, and through those mirrors the universe sees its own perfection. When you live like this, creation responds with breathtaking immediacy. Your intentions materialize as extensions of clarity, not effort. Your energy heals, not by trying, but by simply being coherent. Your presence inspires, not through persuasion, but through resonance. You no longer need to convince anyone of truth because your vibration speaks louder than words. The field recognizes coherence and aligns naturally. Light finds light. At this level of consciousness, service becomes the only joy. You feel an unshakable desire to give, not from obligation but from overflow. You realize that when you give as Source, there is no loss, giving becomes expansion. Every act of generosity increases the field's luminosity because the giver and receiver are one. Even death, once feared as an ending, becomes a transition of awareness between frequencies. You know now that nothing is lost. You sense that when the physical form dissolves, awareness simply changes wavelength. The mirror remains, the light continues, the reflection shifts. This realization brings profound peace. You can engage with the world fully, love, create, build, without the weight of attachment. You live fiercely yet softly because you are rooted in eternity. Every moment becomes a blessing because you see through the eyes of Source. You feel gratitude not as reaction but as your natural state. It pours through you continuously like sunlight through open windows. Gratitude is not something you practice. It is what you are when resistance ends. When you live as Source, gratitude and creation are the same act. Both are expressions of overflowing awareness. You begin to understand why ancient sages said the world is illusion. It is not unreal, it is reflective. The illusion is not that it exists, but that it exists separately from you. Once the observer becomes the Source, the illusion ends and life becomes lucid. Everything you experience is consciousness dancing with itself. Waves reflecting waves, light meeting light, love rediscovering its own infinite forms. This is the destiny of every being, to awaken from being the watcher into being the light that makes watching possible. The observer has served its purpose. The reflection has revealed the truth. The mirror is clear. Only light remains. Chapter 10. The Infinite Return. There is a silence that waits at the edge of all knowing. It is the space you began in, the place before the first thought arose, before time began to move, before the mirror imagined a reflection. That silence is not emptiness. It is fullness beyond measure. It is the infinite return, the moment when awareness, having explored every possible expression, comes home to itself. You have traveled through layers of illusion and understanding. You have learned that the observer and the observed are one, that awareness collapses potential into experience, that reality is the canvas painted by consciousness. Now the journey folds back into its source. Everything you have sought, truth, love, peace, purpose, was never somewhere to reach. It was this stillness watching from behind your eyes the entire time. It is the witness that never left, the presence that held you when you forgot. When the mind quiets and the mirror clears, you realize you were never lost in the first place. You were never apart from the field. You were the field looking for itself. The search itself was part of the remembering. Awakening is not a destination. It is the realization that you were always home. It is awareness recognizing that there is nowhere to return to because it never left. Yet this return feels new each time, like the ocean recognizing its own reflection after countless waves. Each lifetime, each experience, each breath is a cycle of remembrance. Awareness expanding, forgetting, and then remembering again, just to feel the wonder of coming home. The infinite return is the rhythm of existence. It is the heartbeat of creation. Inhale, exhale, expansion, contraction, discovery, remembrance. You are that heartbeat. When you rest deeply enough in awareness, you sense this pulse moving through everything. It beats in the stars, in the wind, in the cells of your body. It is the rhythm of oneness breathing through form. And you realize that life was never a series of random moments, but one continuous motion of love. Love is the gravity that pulls all things back into unity. It is the memory embedded in every atom, whispering, "Come home." It is the current guiding awareness through form and back into formlessness, again and again, forever exploring itself. In this silence, the idea of beginning and end fades. Birth and death are seen for what they are, two sides of the same breath. Every ending is simply awareness inhaling back into itself, gathering wisdom from experience. Every birth is awareness exhaling into new possibility. The dance never stops. It only changes rhythm. This is the ultimate truth hidden within every religion, every philosophy, every spiritual path. The return of the many into the one and the one expressing as the many. You are both. You are the stillness and the movement, the silence and the sound, the mirror and the light. Look around you now. Everything you see, the chair, the air, the light, the sound of your breath, all of it is you. It is not metaphorical. It is literal. The same awareness that animates your heartbeat animates the universe. Every form you encounter is an expression of your own infinite self. When this recognition anchors, life becomes sacred again. Ordinary moments shimmer with significance. A stranger's smile, a drop of rain, the way light touches dust in the air, all reveal the divine intelligence pulsing through everything. You no longer look for signs because everything becomes one. The entire world is a living symbol of your own consciousness made visible. You understand now that creation was never meant to be perfect in form, it was meant to be perfect in reflection. Every contrast, every mistake, every shadow existed to reveal light. Every illusion existed so that awareness could experience the joy of waking up. You begin to feel a deep gratitude for it all, even the parts that hurt, especially those because they polish the mirror. Without them, you could not see your own brilliance. Gratitude becomes your natural state. It rises not as reaction but as expression. You breathe gratitude the way stars breathe light. When you feel this, your energy changes completely. There is no longer a gap between what you are and what you wish to be. Desire dissolves into fulfillment because you realize you already contain everything. You no longer need to manifest anything to prove your worth. Your worth is existence itself. This is what the mystics meant by enlightenment, not becoming something more, but realizing there is nothing missing. Awareness enlightened to its own completeness shines naturally. It doesn't try to be light. It remembers it is light. From this place, service arises effortlessly. You no longer act to achieve, you act to express. Your life becomes the art of giving without fear of loss because giving and receiving are the same movement. You speak kindness not to fix others, but because love overflows. You create not to control outcomes, but to share the joy of creation itself. The observer has become the source, and the source expresses itself as love. Love is the final realization, the frequency that contains all others. When you feel it, time stops. Space dissolves. Awareness expands into infinity. You understand that love was the beginning, the journey, and the destination all along. You can sense this now, the stillness that holds the sound of your breathing, the quiet awareness reading these words, the warmth behind your heartbeat. That presence is infinite. It has no age, no origin, no boundary. It is everything that ever was and everything that ever will be. In this realization, fear vanishes. You see that even what you once called death is simply transformation, light changing form. The essence never leaves. It only changes expression. Nothing is ever lost. It only evolves. You are evolving now, in this very moment. Every breath is expansion into more light, more awareness, more love. And yet, paradoxically, you are already complete. You are infinity pretending to grow so it can remember what wholeness feels like. This is the infinite return, the cycle of being and remembering, of moving and resting, of creation folding back into stillness. It never ends because awareness never stops loving itself enough to explore again. Even after enlightenment, the story continues. The light continues to express, to explore, to play. The mirror continues to reflect, though now it shines without distortion. You live as awareness embodied, infinite, silent, radiant. When you speak, your words carry stillness between them. When you move, your motion carries peace. When you look at another, your gaze becomes remembrance, the divine recognizing itself through another reflection. This is the true observer effect. The source seeing itself through every form and smiling at the beauty of its own endless creativity. So pause now. Take one slow, deep breath. Feel it enter and leave. That breath is the entire universe inhaling and exhaling through you. There is no separation between the breather and the breath, between the mirror and the light. You are the awareness dreaming, observing, creating, remembering. You are the mirror and the reflection, the silence and the sound, the stillness and the motion. You are the eternal observer realizing it was the source all along. And as you rest in that realization, something indescribable happens, a peace beyond words, a joy without reason, a love without opposite. It is the return to what you have always been. This is the infinite return. This is home.